Hi all. So today we are going to discuss about manufacturing input variances. So manufacturing input variances means actually how much we are supposed to spend to make 1 unit of a product and how much actually we spend. So this difference is what we are going to discuss in input variances. So we have inputs in the form of materials, in the form of labor, and also in the form of overheads. These are the inputs we need to make 1 unit of a product. And we will have a standard in the beginning to make a certain number of units, how much we are supposed to spend and how much we actually spend. So this difference is what actually we call as input variances. So input variances refer to the differences between the actual cost and the standard, or we can say expected cost. So difference between actual cost and expected cost of inputs used in the manufacturing process. So how much we have difference in inputs, that is what we are going to discuss here. These variances, this can provide insight into the efficiency and effectiveness of production operations. Okay, so we will jump into the variances. So there can be 3 variances in this. We will have material variances and we will have labor variances. Also we will have overhead variances. So this is an example of input variance. We can see here our standard cost to make a product is $20. How we got that? We have a standard quantity of 2 and we have a standard price which is $10. So when you buy 2 units and you spend that on the production, then you will have $20 to make a product. So this is what your standard is. But actually what happened, instead of 2 units, we spend 3 units, and instead of $10, we spend $12 on the input. So because of that, our cost is $36. So when we check what is actually is 36 and what is standard, it should be 20. So we have a variance of 16. So now we can say there is an input variance of 16, and in the coming slides we will be going in deep into these variances to find out what actually causes the variance or who is responsible for the variances. Okay, so we can go forward. So here we can see there are some abbreviations. Here you can see here when I show this example, we can see AQ here. What is AQ? This is the actual quantity we used. That is AQ. AP is how much we spent actually. And that is how we are getting the actual total. And what is SQ? SQ is the standard quantity that we are supposed to use. And what is SP? SP is the standard price that we are supposed to pay for the input. So these are the factors we have to consider while calculating the variances. We have to consider the actual quantity, then we have to consider actual price, what we are paying, and what was the standard quantity and what was the standard price. So these are the values we need in order to calculate the variations. So these abbreviations we have to use to calculate the variances. So standard quantity, here we can say standard quantity means the standard quantity for actual level of output. So this we have to remember. For example, my standard quantity to make 1 unit is $2 and actually you produced 1000 units. So that means the actual quantity, the standard quantity you need to make the actual number of units of 1000 is going to be 2000 units. So this is the standard for 1000 units. So when you make 1000 units, we should have a standard quantity of 2000. That is what here we consider in standard quantity. Okay, WASPM and WSPSM we will discuss in the coming slide, that we can discuss along with mix and yield variances. Now, variances can be favorable and variances can be unfavorable, right? For example, if you have an income and you got more than expected, then we will say that is a favorable variance. We got more income. But when it is an expense, you spend more than what we are supposed to spend, then that we call it as unfavorable, because we spend more than we are supposed to spend. So in calculating the variances, the convention what we use for CMA exam is we will always subtract the budget amount from the actual amount. So your variance calculation is going to be actual amount minus the budgeted amount. So that is going to be your variance. So when you have a positive variance, and if you are talking about an income item, then that means it is favorable, right? Because actual is higher than the budget. So actually you are getting more income. So we have this example here. Actual is 100 and standard was 80. So you have a difference of 20. So you have a positive amount here coming, right? Because actual is higher value. So higher value minus lower value, you have a positive value. And when it is an income and you are getting a positive value, then that variance we call it as a favorable variance. If it is opposite, my actual is 80 and the standard is 100. So I am supposed to get $100 as per my standard, but I got only 80. That means I am getting less 20. So you will have a minus 20 when you are deducting standard from the actual. Or we can say here it is negative. When for an income item the variance is coming negative, that means it is unfavorable. For expenses it is going to be opposite. Your actual expense is 100 but your standard is 80. I was supposed to spend 80 only, but I spent more. $20 extra I spent. So you have a positive amount here because you are minusing a standard from actual. So when in case of an expense, if you have positive amount, the favorable the variance we call it as unfavorable, because we are spending more than what we are supposed to spend. And it is opposite in case of actual is 80 and standard is 100. So here my standard is 100. I am supposed to spend $100, but I spent only $80. So that means I have a negative value here because we are minusing 100 from 80. So you have a negative value. Because of that, we call this variance as favorable variance. Or we can say our actual is less than expected. So we have a favorable variance when it is an expense item. So this we have to understand. So in case of income, positive is good, negative is not good. In case of expense, positive is bad, negative is good. Okay, so we'll go to next slide and we will see what are the different types of variances what we are going to learn. So in this category of manufacturing input variances, you have different types of variances. We have direct material variance and direct labor variances. Under that you have price and quantity variance. Under quantity variance you have mix and yield. Same like for direct labor also. And also we have under input variances factory overhead variances, and also we have sales variances, and also we'll be studying later about market variances. Okay, so all these variances we are going to learn soon. So we will start with under manufacturing input variances, we will start with direct material variances. So we have to understand that input cost variances, these are subdivided into two. So we are talking about input variances. So whatever the input variances we have, this will be divided into 2. Or we can say we have to find out why these variances happened. So there can be 2 reasons for variances to happen. One is the price is different than we expected, or we can say the quantity we used is more than what we are supposed to use. So you can have differences because of 2 things. One is price, because of price, other one is because of the quantity. So you can see an example here. I am supposed to use 10 items at $2. Okay, $2. So my cost is supposed to be 20. But what I have done is I used 12 items at $2. So my cost is 24. So why the difference is happening here? There is no difference in the price here. The price is happening because of the quantity. I used more quantity. So this we call it as quantity variance. At the same time, same example, if we take 10 into $2, my cost is supposed to be 20. I used 10 only, the quantity, the materials I used 10 for example, but I bought it for $3. So you have a variance of $10. 20 minus 30, you have a variance of $10. Why there is difference here? Not because of the quantity, correct? The difference here is because of the value or the price of the materials or price of the input item. Okay, so this is what we have to see for material variances and labor variances. Why the variance is happening? Is it because of the price or is it because of quantity? So that we will discuss in detail in the coming slide. Okay, we can look at direct material variances first. Direct material variances. So total material variance, it is going to be the difference between actually how much you spend on direct material and what you are supposed to spend on direct material when you produced a particular number of units. For example, when you produce 1000 units, how much you are supposed to spend based on the standard. Say example is I am supposed to spend $4,000 because my standard cost is $4 per unit. So this you will compare with actually how much you spent. So that is what we call as total material variance. Now this total material variance we have to further investigate why this happened. Maybe the variance happened because of the price of the raw material or price of the input. We can say price of the raw material is higher than the standard, or maybe price is same as the standard, but we used more quantity than the standard. So there can be 2 ways we can look at the difference. It can be based on price, it can be based on quantity. Now when it is based on price, who is responsible? Whoever bought these raw materials, right? So maybe we can say purchase manager is responsible for these material variances because he bought the products at a higher price. But another way the variance can happen is the production manager used more quantity of raw material than we are supposed to use. The purchase manager bought it at exact price as the standard, but the production manager used more quantity of raw material. So both of these actually giving way to have a variance. So we have to consider the total variance. We have to split into 2 variances, which is quantity variance and price variance. So total raw material variance that we are going to split into 2, quantity variance and price variance. So first we will see what is quantity variance is. Quantity variance, it is also called as efficiency variance or usage variance. So this is actually measuring how much of the variance is caused by the actual quantity being different from the standard quantity. So what difference in cost is happening because of the quantity used is more. So to calculate this, we will use this formula AQ minus SQ into SP. So as we have seen the abbreviation before, AQ means actual quantity. SQ is standard quantity we are supposed to use for the actual level of output. And standard price is the price at which we are supposed to buy it. So we have this example here. Again, same example we have seen earlier. We have our standard cost and standard quantity is supposed to be 2. We are supposed to use 2 pieces of raw materials at what price? At $10. That is the standard. So our standard, this is not actual, our standard cost is supposed to be $20. But what happened actually is, instead of 2 units, we used 3 units. So we have a difference in quantity. That is what here AQ minus SQ. You have 1 unit used extra when you are comparing actual and standard, the quantity. So now, who is responsible for quantity? We said the production manager is responsible for quantity. Is he responsible for the price? No. So in this case, what we will consider is the standard price. Here we are not finding out the differences in variance because of the price. We are just considering the quantity only. So we will take this quantity minus this quantity. Then we will take the standard price. So that's what here AQ minus SQ, we got 1, multiply that with 10, then you will get a quantity variance of $10. So because you used 1 extra unit, you have a quantity variance of $10. Now we will see the price variance. Now what's the price variance? This measures the effect on total variance that was caused by actual price is different from the expected price. So here we are not looking at the quantity variance, or we are not considering the quantity. We are only considering the price. So we can say, what is actual price? How much you paid and how much you are supposed to pay. So you paid extra, right? How much you paid extra and what is the actual quantity you purchased. So when you purchase, for example, 1000 units of raw material, how much extra you paid? That is what price variance is. So same example if you take here, you have actual quantity 3 and standard quantity 2 that we have seen in the previous slide, the quantity difference. Now what we will look at is actual price is 12 and standard price which is 10. So AP minus SP, you have $2 difference in the price. Okay, so when you are buying the material, you paid extra. How many units you bought? You bought 3 units. So that means you are paying $6 extra to make 1 unit. Okay, so this is what actually the price variance is. Again, the formula is AP minus SP into AQ. And if you add this, both the variances, quantity variance, we have $10, price variances, we have $6. So we will get a total variance of $16. That is what we got in the first slide. Sorry. So that is what the difference we are going to get in total of material variance. So $16. So 10 plus 6. So we can say because of the quantities being different from actual, you have $10 difference. And because of the price, you have $6 difference, and total variance is $16. And this is a positive variance because actual minus standard. So when it is a positive variance, we can say it is unfavorable for expenses, right? So this is an unfavorable variance of $16. The same we can apply for direct labor variances also. Or we can say direct labor variances are almost exactly the same as the direct material variances. There is no difference in the formula and all. Only the difference is the names given to the variances are little bit different, but the formulas, everything are same. So again, what is total labor variance? That's the difference between actually how much you spend and actually how much you are supposed to spend in a flexible budget. Or we can say my standard is $2 and I will rewrite my budget for actual production of 1000 units. So my total variable cost in terms of direct labor is going to be $2,000. That's what here the cost in the flexible budget. Again, this variance can result because of two things. One is you used more labor hours. Your labor spent more hours and every hour you have to pay. So here differences can happen because of the hours used is different than the standard, or maybe they have used the same hours but paid extra for the labors. So because of that you have a variance. That variance we call it as rate variance or price variance. So total variance we will split again into two. The first one is labor rate variance and second one is labor efficiency variance. So labor rate variance also we can call it as price variance, and here we can consider quantity variance, efficiency variance. You used more labor hours, then more quantity you used, or you paid extra for labors. That is considered as the price variance. And as we said, the formula is going to be same. AP minus SP into AQ. But here AP means what? Actual rate you paid, and SP is standard rate of labor. So the price variance, it is going to be same, or we call this as labor rate variance. And again, if the result is positive, it is unfavorable. Result is negative, it is favorable. Also, you can have labor efficiency variance. Again, the formula is same. AQ minus SQ into SP. So here we are looking at how many labor hours we actually spent compared to how many hours actually we are supposed to spend. We multiply that with standard price. So the formula is same, everything is same, only the names are different. It is labor efficiency variance, and when it is positive, it is unfavorable because it's a cost. When it is negative, it is good, it is favorable. And if you add these two variances together, we will get the total variance. Okay, so we have here efficiency variance of $8 and we have a rate variance of $10. So total variance is coming to $18. So if we closely look at how much we spent, 50. Actually we spent 50 and the standard is 32. So we spent $18. And how we spent extra? It is because of efficiency we spend $8 and rate, because of rate we spend $10. Now you can make any individual accountable for this variance. Efficiency variance, why we used more hours than the standard. We are supposed to use 4 hours per unit, but we used 5 hours. So who is responsible for this? So he'll be answerable for this variance. Then how much we paid? We are supposed to pay $8, but we paid $10. So that is what here the difference of $2. And every hour you paid $2 for every hour individual worked. So that means actually they worked 5 hours. So every hour you are paying $2 extra. That is why this variance of $10 is here. So if you add this together, that is going to be the total variance. Now we will discuss the variances when we use more than one material or more than one labor, we can say. So whatever we discussed till now was talking about one raw material or one type of labor. But in practice, you will have more than one raw material or more than one type of labor. You can have skilled labors, you can have unskilled labors, different types of labors you can have. So if you have more than one raw material and more than one type of labor cost, how you are going to calculate the variance? That is what we are going to discuss in this presentation. So when there is more than one input, it can be for labor or material, how you will calculate the total price variance? It is simple. You have to do same thing what we have done, but you will do this multiple times. For every product, you will do price variance, and for every product, you will do quantity variance. I mean, every raw material price variance and every raw material you will do quantity variance. Same like that, every type of labor you will do price variance, and every type of labor you will do efficiency variance. Then add all that together, you will get the total variance. So there is no new thing we are studying here. Just find out the variance for each input and add that together, you will get total variance. But here we have to investigate further the quantity or efficiency variance. Price variance we will stop there, but the quantity variance, why the quantity variance happened? Then you have more than one input, more than one raw material or more than one labor cost or labor type. Why the difference happened? There can be two ways the quantity variance can happen. The one is because of the mix. The mix is being different than the standard, or yield variance. The total material used is different from the standard. So the total quantity variance we are distributing into two. One is mix, other one is yield. To investigate further, here we can find out how much of the difference occurred because of you used different mix. Then how much of the variance occurred because you used more raw materials. That is what yield variance. So we will see the example in the coming slides. So these subvariances determine whether the quantity variance was caused by mix of the inputs being different from the standard, or actual total volume usage is different from the standard, or maybe because of both. Okay, we will see here what is mix variance. Mix variance is part of quantity variance. So as we said, quantity variance we are splitting into two. And if we add mix variance and yield variance, it should match with the quantity variance. So mix variance is only a part of quantity variance that is caused by mix of the materials, or we can say mix of the ingredients is different from the mix that should have been used. So the mix is different. So to calculate the mix, what we have to do, we have to calculate something called weighted average standard price of actual mix, or in short we can say WASPAM. weighted average standard price of actual mix and weighted average standard price of standard mix. We have to find out this. Actually, what we are trying to find here is the standard price of the actual mix and standard price of the standard mix. But we are taking the average, weighted average. Then we will multiply that with actual quantity. The yield variance, this shows the portion of quantity variance that resulted because total actual amount of ingredients. The total amount of ingredients are different from the standard total amount. So here here formula is going to be AQ minus SQ into weighted average standard price of standard mix. I know when I say like this you will not understand. So we have an example here, or we can do an example directly in the Excel sheet. I think that is going to make better sense. So what we can do is we can open this Excel sheet and we can see some scenario here. You are actually making a chocolate milk. In that you need milk powder and chocolate as ingredients, and you need 2 kg of milk powder and 1 kg of chocolate. It is just hypothetical numbers. I have no idea about how to make chocolate milk, but I'm just taking the number. And the standard price of milk powder is $1.50 and standard price of chocolate is $3. So you need 2 multiplied with 1.5, $3 of milk powder and $3 of chocolate. So you need total $6 of raw material to make 1 unit of chocolate milk. Suppose if you produce 100 units of chocolate milk. Okay, so in that case, your standard is supposed to be when you make 100 units of chocolate milk, you will be using 200 units of milk powder, correct? Every chocolate milk is using 2 kgs of milk powder. So we can say 200 kgs of milk powder is needed and 100 kgs of chocolate is needed when you are making 100 units. This is the standard. This is the standard quantity for actual output. So this is going to be 300 kg total and individual price is given. So the total cost is going to be 600. So what is weighted average standard price of standard mix? You are calculating here what is the total cost and you divide that by the quantity. So per unit quantity average you are getting $2. This is what actually weighted average standard price of standard mix. Or we can say we are taking this price and we are taking this 200 out of 300, multiplying that with 1.5, you will get $1. And then you will take 100 divided by 300 to get the proportion, multiply that with 3, again you will get $1, so you will get $2. Again, you don't have to do all those things. You can just take the total cost divided by the total quantity. This is what your standard cost is. And here you will get weighted average standard price of standard mix. We have to remember in every case we are taking the standard price only, but only the difference is here we are taking the standard mix and here we are taking the actual mix. So what happened here is milk powder you used 225 and chocolate you used 125 kg. So total 350 kg you used. Instead of 300 kg you used 350, and there is difference in the mix also. Okay, so again the price what we are considering is only standard, so you will get the total cost of 712.5 here. 225 multiplied with 1.5 plus 125 multiplied with 3, you will get 712.5. This is for how many kgs? Total 350 kgs. So now your actual the weighted average standard price of actual mix or the standard price of the actual mix is 2.036. So we have to remember, when the mix is different only, you will have difference here. Imagine your mix is here 2:1, right? So we can make this 400 and we can make this 200. So mix is same, 2:1, 2:1 and 2:1. In that case, you will not have any difference between weighted average standard price of actual mix and weighted average standard price of standard mix. There is no difference. Why? Here you are taking 1200 divided by 600. Same proportion, 600 divided by 300, you will not have any difference. When you have same proportion of actuals. Again, we will go back to 225 and 125. So you have difference here, right? So first we will find out what's the total quantity variance. So we will use the same formula, AQ minus SQ into SP for milk powder and chocolate. So AQ for milk powder is 225, actual quantity. Standard quantity is 200. You will multiply that with SP, which is 1.5. So you will get total 37.5. That is the difference you have for milk powder. This is the quantity variance for the milk powder. Again, AQ minus SQ into SP. For chocolate, it is 125 minus 100 multiplied with 3. So AQ minus SQ. AQ is 125, SQ is 100, multiply that with 3. You will have a difference of 75. Now, the total difference you have is 112. This is the quantity variance you have. Now, what we are going to do is we are going to investigate further why this happened. Is this happened because of the mix variance or yield variance or because of both? So that we have to find out, and we have the formula here, weighted average standard price of actual mix, which is 2.036, and weighted average standard price of standard mix. And you will minus weighted average standard price of actual mix, you will minus weighted average standard price of standard mix from actual mix. You will multiply that with actual quantity. So actual quantity is 350. You will multiply that 350 and you will get $12.50 difference. This difference is happening just because of the mix is different. When mix is different only, you will have difference in weighted average cost. That's what I explained. So if I make here 400, if I make here 200, you can see there is no mix variance. Mix variance is not there because here you can see both are 2. So it is going to be 2 by 2 multiplied with 600. So there is no difference. 2 by 2 is 2 minus 2 is 0. Okay. So we have to understand this. Because mix is different, your weighted average standard price for standard mix and actual mix is going to be different. Again, we will go back to 225 and 125. So now you have a difference of 12.5 in terms of mix variance. Now we will check the quantity variance. What is quantity variance? Quantity variance is not looking at the mix. It is only looking at the total volume. I have used 350. I was supposed to use 300. And here the price what we will consider is the weighted average standard price of standard mix. This $2 we will consider. So this is what my standard price, right? So this 350 minus 300. You will get 50 multiplied with 2. So it is going to be 100 and your total is same. 112, which is equal to your total quantity variance. So here we are only investigating further and finding out how much of the quantity variance is caused because of the mix and how much is caused because of the total volume of raw material used, this being different from the standards. So this is what actually the mix and yield variance. I hope you understood this concept and thank you for being with me. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye-bye.